Alright, so game number 3, gonna take us to the PlayStation 3. Done with my SNES binge for now. I will get back to SNES games because there are probably some pretty quick SNES games. Mega Man X is a pretty short SNES game I will be doing. Tetris Attack's a short one I'm gonna be doing. There are a few other SNES games, but I wanted to switch up console because I tried playing Super Mario Land on the Super Game Boy, and the game crashed. So I will need to figure out either what's wrong with my Super Game Boy, or try playing Super Mario Land via the Game Boy Player on the GameCube. But really, I'm not even playing a PS3 game, I'm actually playing a PS2 game that I downloaded on the PS3, that I actually bought a PS3 just for this game. And if you know what this game is, you might wonder why anyone would buy an entire console just to play Ruff Trigger. Because it's not a very good game. It really isn't. And you would also probably think that surely buying a copy of this game on the PlayStation 2 is cheaper than buying a whole new console just for this game. And you would be correct. But I'm not the best at making financial decisions. But yeah, Ruff Trigger. It is going to fit somewhere in my 3 categories of what kind of game this is going to be for this challenge. We've got estimated length. The estimated length of this game is a bit on the longer side compared to the less than 30-minute games before. This is definitely going to take more than an hour, might take upwards of 2 hours. So it's not super short. I'm just trying to not burn through all my insanely short games just yet, because on days I don't have much time to play games, it would be nice to have some of those really short games so it can be like, I still get the dopamine of, I did beat a game today. Even if it was, I just beat Pac-Man Arrange Man, that game takes 10 minutes to beat, you know? And Ruff Trigger was probably going to be a game I would do anyway, because even though it is a bit up there in length compared to other games I can do, it does go well with the other categories, one being familiarity. I am super familiar with this game. I have beaten this game way more times than anyone should. And then, as far as the third category, which is difficulty, this game isn't that difficult. It can be kind of tricky, because if you game over, you're sent back to the title screen. So if you're saving your progress, the game only saves every level, so you would have to restart whatever level you're on. But again, my familiarity with the game balances that out. So any tricky part's not going to be that tricky, because I pretty much know how to deal with any situation. But this game is going to be another good example game, because the reason I'm super familiar with this game is because I speedrun this game. I'm pretty much the only person who was dumb enough to try running this game. And it's actually a decent speedrun. It kind of runs into the problem where there's like no movement tech. So you kind of just walk to the next place you skip, and then you just do a skip. And a lot of the skips are actually not that tricky, because you kind of just you just kind of double jump at a bunch of walls, and eventually the game will let you clip through. There's some weird things here and there, but for this challenge, I am going to try and not do many speedrun tricks. And by that I mean like major, massive skips. Because I could skip this boss right now. And the room after this boss. There's a strat to do that. There's a pretty easy out-of-bounds clip, and then you can abuse damage frames out of bounds to get past this part without dying. But I don't want to use speedrun strats because even though I don't necessarily have a problem with speedrun strats in general, I've done speedruns of many games in the past, I just feel like if you allow a lot of speedrun strats, then the strat for beating a ton of games becomes how many speedruns can you learn, and then you just start the challenge, and then you just do a bunch of speedruns, you know? And to me, that's not as satisfying. Or, not that it's not satisfying, it's just a different challenge. You know? It's like learning a bunch of speedruns. I mean, that'd be fine. I enjoyed doing that in the past. I ran a bunch of games. And there are still, you know, games I might remember enough of the speedrun strats to beat quickly, like this game, Sly Cooper, maybe some of the other games I ran. That maybe would be a lot shorter than they would be if I'm not using speedrun strats. Like, I don't know that Sly Cooper 1 is very viable, or I don't think any of the Sly Cooper games are very viable without speedrun strats. But so, like, maybe that would make Sly Cooper viable, but still, I just think it makes it a very different challenge, and it's really not what I'm going for right now. There's another place that I could do a skip. You do not have to kill all these spiders. And, I mean, honestly, some of the skips like this, I would be kind of mixed on if they're really skips. I'm not going to be super, like, it's more so the out of bounds, the sequence breaks, the large skips that I'm not doing. If there's, like, movement tech, I'm still going to use the movement tech. If there's, like, slight strategies to beat this boss faster or something, I'm still going to do them. And then sometimes it depends on how it feels, if it feels like it's intentional or not. In Crash Bandicoot The Huge Adventure, you can beat Dingodile faster, but I think it's just programmed not to shoot missiles if you are behind him. And that does make it faster, but it's also intentional. So it definitely is going to be a judgment call kind of thing. But for the most part, I'm not doing, like, major skips. I don't think skipping that, like, spider fight back there would have really been too much of an issue. Because all you do to skip that is you literally, you walk in front of the gate, the piglot comes towards you, and you grab him through the gate. It's not really a big skip, it just, like, skips having to kill all the spiders. And killing all the spiders, I mean, that's just 2 ground pounds. It's not really that big of a thing. But skipping the Firebird, I definitely wouldn't have done, because that's a pretty major skip. I mean, it's the first boss in the game. You're supposed to fight the first boss in the game. This is another place where I could do a skip. One of the newest skip that was found in the game. You can skip beating all these enemies by using invincibility frames. Because normally if you get into something like the lava or the mud that's going to be in later levels, they don't want you to be able to just abuse damage frames, or invincibility frames, and be able to, you know, go across a damage plane that's meant to prevent you from progressing until you've done a certain objective, like killing all these enemies. Is he supposed to be there? Maybe. I feel like he usually spawns a bit closer. Maybe not. But so when you jump in the lava, you take damage, and then you're supposed to, like, if you walk a little bit, you immediately take damage again. But there's actually a funny trick you can do.
You forget that power. Now you got me power. Hold R1 change.
What you can actually do is getting some health so I can not die. If you slam, you actually get a lot more time that you can move around in the lava before you take more damage. No idea why it works that way. Don't know who messed that up. I don't think you're supposed to be able to do that. But you can skip that entire fight if you... It still is pretty tricky because where you can actually jump down and stuff is a little specific. But you can skip that fight. And you may wonder, because we just got Werewolf, which is the character I'm playing as now. Ruff can transform into Werewolf at any time, as long as he has that green bar in the top left. That's the genetic powers meter. That's his... Ruff gets guns he can shoot. Werewolf gets magic he can shoot. And so as long as you have some genetic powers you can use, you can transform into Werewolf. But you may wonder, if we skip that fight scene, that's where we unlocked Werewolf. You still get Werewolf if you don't complete that fight. And the answer is yes, but actually no. You don't unlock Werewolf if you skip that fight. You're not supposed to unlock Werewolf. The thing is, being able to play as Werewolf is entirely determined by that green meter in the top left. As long as you have some of that meter, you can play and switch to Werewolf. And so what happens... Now, of course, they put 2 Picklots here. You usually skip this part. There's a pretty easy trick you can do where you just jump on a box and then you just jump over the gate. That I'm not doing, so I don't really know how many Piglots are usually in this section. I think this is probably the last one. But, the only thing that's determining if you have any of that green meter is if you've... There's no way you unlock the green meter, right? It gives it to you when you first unlock Werewolf. But you don't have to unlock it first before you can fill it up. If you don't have the green meter and you collect the green vial that refills the meter, it'll give you the meter and then you can transform into Werewolf because you have the green meter. So even if you skip getting Werewolf, all you have to do is get to that first green vial, pick it up, and then you can transform into Werewolf. Which does still save time, because you're skipping those spiders. There's also another part you would normally skip. This part really sucks, so I'm really glad we could skip it. Yeah, I guess this is kind of what they want you to do. Can you grab it from here? Wait, how do they actually expect you to do this? Surely that can't be the right way. Okay, you just hit them. Alright, I was like, there's no way they expect you to have enough time to pick up all the Piglots, but I'm guessing this is going to be super, super annoying. Maybe not. Yep. This is what I was kind of thinking it was going to be. Basically, do this super tedious thing and then do it 4 times. Have fun. Which I'm not surprised for this game that it's something super tedious and boring. But yeah, normally if you couldn't get the green meter again, you would definitely not want to skip Werewolf. Werewolf, Boss literally says it right at the beginning. Werewolf is faster, stronger, and can jump further than Ruff. The only thing Ruff has that's any sort of better is he has a gun, which, that's only useful for parts where you need a gun. Werewolf's attacks are way stronger, so if there's ever any enemies that you can attack on the ground, you're better off attacking on the ground. Which I actually do need to be getting tokens. If I'm not doing skips, tokens are actually going to be super useful because I don't want to get soft locked later in the game. I didn't consider that. Ooh. Yeah, you can actually soft lock if you don't get enough tokens. And there's no way to get more tokens if you didn't get enough tokens. I might just kind of do it casually. It's level 8 that you can soft lock in. So it's not going to take that long to get to level 8, especially like level 3 is really short. Okay, I almost just did a speedrun skip, which, I don't know that I'd necessarily even consider that a skip. Like, sure, it's probably unintentional, but I think if you make a gate that you can easily double jump over, that people are probably just going to double jump over it. I guess they just expected you to find the enemies first, and then you would just defeat all the enemies naturally, and then that would get you to the gate. Or then you would open the gate, They don't expect you to go past the enemies before fighting them, But yeah, Werewolf is, if you watch a speedrun of this game, it's 90% Werewolf. There's a few things that you have to switch to Ruff here and there for, but you mostly just play as Werewolf, because Werewolf is just straight up better than Ruff all the time. And especially, I don't know, I feel... There's also another little skip. If a cutscene is starting, that's like on a time thing. If you transform, like as soon as the cutscene's starting, it'll let you move around during the cutscene. But I kind of feel like with this game, I don't think they playtested it with Werewolf. I think Werewolf was maybe added very late in development, because there are so many strats that are like only possible because you can play as Werewolf. Like if you couldn't play as Werewolf, 90% of the skips aren't possible. But Werewolf has much higher jump height, so some invisible walls that are way too high for Ruff to get over, you can easily jump over them as Werewolf. And then also the properties of transforming is a bit buggy. So there's, in the water, if you're going fast enough, Werewolf kind of clips out in an awkward way. Or his model kind of clips out of bounds if you're rubbing up against the wall. And you can't clip through the wall normally. But if you transform into Ruff, well, Werewolf's model is slightly clipped out of bounds. It will let you clip out of bounds, because it'll push Ruff into the wall. And you can skip pretty much the entirety of level 9 using that. And most of level 7 as well. So I kind of feel like Werewolf had to have been added later, or they balanced the game around Ruff and didn't consider people using Werewolf, which is weird that you would think that. But I don't know, they may have initially had different ideas for how to use Werewolf. Because I think Werewolf is definitely a lot like Dark Jack in Jak 2. But Dark Jack in Jak 2 has a time limit. You can't use him forever, if I'm remembering correctly. I never actually beat Jak 2, so I don't know how it works that well. But I'm pretty sure there's like a limited time you can use Dark Jack. So even though he is stronger in the hand-to-hand combat, you can't use him forever. And maybe they initially intended Werewolf to be the same, or maybe they thought people were gonna use the genetic powers enough. I had to check my ammo, make sure I had enough, because this is one of the few parts where you do need a gun. But so maybe they thought people were going to use Werewolf's genetic powers enough to where people wouldn't be playing the full game as Werewolf. Or it was initially going to have a time limit. And so they thought it was never going to be a problem to balance the game around Ruff because people weren't going to be able to use Werewolf as much as you can. But if you just don't use the genetic powers, you can play as Werewolf the entire game. Other than level 1, because you don't unlock him until level 2. But yeah, I obviously don't know what happened, because I didn't make this game. I was not a part of making it. I don't know anything about the development. I just think it's really weird that a lot of the design in this game is just super weird and I don't understand it. If you read the Wikipedia page for this game, and probably other sources as well, it says there's 3 main games that people compare this game to as being kind of a ripoff of. And those games are Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Pikmin. I can't really speak to the Ratchet and Clank comparison because I've actually never played a Ratchet and Clank game. So I don't know if I'll be doing any Ratchet and Clank games for this challenge. Unless you want to count this as a Ratchet and Clank game. Which you probably don't want to because this game sucks. But as far as like the Pikmin and Jak and Daxter comparisons, I agree there are similarities in concepts, but I don't think this game really like plays much like those two. It definitely doesn't play like Pikmin. You can just look at the gameplay and think this is nothing like Pikmin. I get the comparison though to Pikmin because you're leading the piglots back and forth. They're not helping you. You're not controlling them in any way. So there's the Armageddon fight. This fight's going to be very common. Multiple levels are going to have it, and it's going to be that short every single time. It is never going to get longer. That is just 2 combos every single time. It's going to be true in level 7. It's going to be true in level 9. It's going to be true in level 11. Just every level that has Armageddon, it's going to be that quick. And also, you may have, if you're keeping track, this is boss number 4 in this one level. I forgot to get ammo. No! Dude, that actually really sucks. You basically need a full clip of ammo to beat this guy, and I'm gonna have to wait till the ammo respawns. But that's the thing, I forgot about recharging my ammo because, you actually wouldn't be using that much ammo in a speedrun at this part in the game.
Keep going. You're doing a good job.
Because you would actually skip bosses 2, 3, and 4. And you would only fight bosses 1, 5, and 6. Because, spoiler alert, there are 6 boss fights in this level. You might think that's a bit overkill. Yeah, it's way overkill. Because there's no other levels that has this many bosses. I don't even know if there are any levels that have multiple bosses. Other than if it has Armageddon in a boss, but even then I don't think there is. And normally I would skip this room too. This is one of the worst rooms in the game. Because I don't know who thought otherwise on the dev team. But having to rescue 6 Piglots in this room, and some of them you have to grab individually, and some don't want to follow you around corners very well, it's not very fun. Like, pick this guy up, try and lead this guy over, but he can't get on the elevator. Okay, well I accidentally did it a little too clean there. But I can't just, like, go here. I guess I can. I need to... Alright, so if you were to try and do it fast and not, like, wait for them, this is probably more so what would happen. You would run through this section, you would save him, and then think, where's this last guy? Oh, he got caught on this corner, and he never left the starting area. I think sometimes they go back to where they were, but not always.
Okay, Ruff. It's up to you now. I'll contact you. Let's go. Over and out.
But yeah, just it's just very not fun. You know, the thing about Pikmin is you use the little creatures. That's like the gameplay, is using those creatures. They fight for you, they help you get the collectibles. There's no game without them. This is just like, these are collectibles with extra steps. Instead of like Jak and Daxter, you would grab the power cells. Mario 64, you grab the power stars. Tasmanian Tiger, you grab the Thunder Eggs, you know? You just grab the objects. In this game, you have to grab the object and then bring it back to an area, and you have to just shuttle them back and forth, and definitely isn't very fun.
Don't give up. You're almost there.
But as far as the Jak and Daxter comparison to this game, I don't think there's anything that's like super specific. Like you look and it's like, this level looks like this is straight out of Jak and Daxter. It's more of just some of the small things. Like, it has the day and night cycle. So it's night right now. If we wait long enough, it'll turn back to morning. And really all that does is kind of change the visuals. The first Jak and Daxter does that as well. At least the first one does. The other two probably do as well, right? I almost just did a speedrun strat. You can skip this room by literally just jumping at the door and you'll ledge grab. But yeah, it has a day-night cycle like Jak and Daxter does. It's not done as well as in Jak and Daxter. In Jak and Daxter, it's really cool because it changes the ambience. This kind of just changes the lighting. Oh, I guess I actually have to save these guys. Normally I would skip it. Okay. Come here. I should open my splits. Like, actually pretended this was a run. And seeing how far ahead or behind I would have been at each level. But yeah, it kind of just changes the lighting, and it's going to be really annoying in one level later when it gets really, really dark. Please tell me I needed to do that. I think you do need to. I actually might die here. I don't have much health. Very close, actually. But I've got 8 lives. It's not too big of a deal. I actually did not know that it didn't respawn the enemies you already killed. That's interesting. Other than the day and night cycle, though, which I really need to be collecting these tokens. I don't want to get soft locked. It's not even like super big of a soft lock. It's just like you most likely won't be able to beat it. Unless you use skips. That's why I don't worry about it in a speed run. So that's why I don't like have a route or anything. And why I would still be skipping all these parts I say I can skip. Even if, because in a speedrun it doesn't matter if you're collecting tokens. It's just if you beat it the intentional way, you can get soft locked at level 8 and just not be able to beat it. But what? Can I see what level I'm at? Is that a button in this game? Wait, actually, is it not a button? Huh. I would have really thought there'd be a button that you could press. That would like bring up the extended HUD and show you how many like tokens and ticals you have. But I guess not. Alright, boss 6. But I think the other big Jak and Daxter comparison is just that you can transform into werewolf, and that's kind of like the combat in Jak 2 a bit. But I don't... It's not a rip-off of Jak and Daxter. It definitely just takes some ideas and concepts from Jak and Daxter. Most people say it's more like Ratchet and Clank, and I just don't have enough experience with Ratchet and Clank to really know that that's true. But yeah, 32 minutes to level 5. That's not terrible, but that's not great either. There are 16 levels in this game, so that means there still are 11 levels. But to be fair, that was one of the longer levels. Some of the levels get really short later in the game. I'm going to take a break, though, and come back to this later. Right, it is now 9:03, January 21st. Day 1 of how many games can I beat in a year? And I'm still playing Ruff Trigger, and I gotta restart the timer. 33 minutes in, level 5. I'm still hoping I don't get soft locked, but we'll have to see. I actually do want to break these boxes because I guess I got ammo earlier. But yeah, I need ammo for another part later. This level is one of the biggest trolls when it comes to glitch hunting. Behind this door is actually the end of the level, and you can actually clip through this wall. And so you would think that that means you could skip the entire level. And if you're wondering why the end of the level is right there, that's because there is an optional pig lot I hate this section so much. I'm glad we skip it in the run. Because you would think if the girder's coming out that it would line up to where you could get to all of them, but sometimes you just have to wait for no reason. But yeah, there's that door that goes to the end of the level, and that's not so you can go from the start of the level to the end of the level. That's so you can go from the end of the level back to the start of the level. Although I count out 6 beeps there. On the 6th beep, I transform, and that allows me to walk during the cutscene. Which lets me get to where I need to be a little quicker, which saves half a second maybe, if that. I may not even save any time at all. But yeah, that's so you can go from the end of the level back to the beginning, because there are invisible piglots in this game, like in level 1. And in level 1's the only time that you need to get one for story. Every other time, they are just optional collectibles. So if you were going for 100%, you would need to find all of the invisible piglots as well. Just a little bit of extra challenge. And there's an invisible piglot at the very beginning of that room. So when you get to the end of the level, you could go backwards. And 6 beeps, transform, move in. You still have to watch the cutscene though, you can't skip it, I don't think. It's kind of scary because I'm only at level 2, and they want you to be at level 7 by level 8, so we'll see what happens if I can't beat it. I mean, so far it's only been 36 minutes. And level 6 isn't that long, level 7's not that long either. Level 4 was really the big long level. It would suck to have wasted time if I do get soft locked, because I also, before this, tried recording Super Mario Land, and my game crashed, which is really weird. I don't know if my Super Game Boy is finicky, or if the Super Game Boy in general is just finicky, or my cartridge is bad, or whatever. I don't think it'd be my cartridge though. I've never had that issue before. But so it would kind of suck just to have 2 failed attempts in a row of 2 different games. But we'll see. And then if I do soft lock, I would just have to figure out what I would want to do at that point regarding this game. Because I could take it slower, get more piglots, and make sure I'm level 11, or 7 rather, by the time I get to level 8. Make sure I'm rank 8 or 7, I guess. That way I'm not using the word level to mean 2 different things. But I don't know, it'd be really slow to start the game like that, especially because there's one level later in the game that's 16 minutes long. I completely forgot about that. Honestly, I don't know how I would have picked this game if I remembered that. Because that level's just so long, and it sucks as well. It's one of the worst levels in the game. But yeah, so at the point where I just picked up this fake piglot, I could have gone back to the beginning of the level to get the invisible piglot. But had I clipped out of bounds... But also, this part's not very well designed. Because they want you to shoot the generator the button over there, and that lets you makes these girders move so you can progress. The problem is that they didn't actually make it to where you can target onto the button. You can only target onto the guy in front of the button. So, I mean, as you can see, I just hit the button before I killed the guy. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you kill the guy and then Ruff, like, turns in an awkward way, and then he's not facing the button, and then you have to manually aim at it. And I'm just gonna do a small sequence break to do the last one, because, I mean, I'm still hitting the button. I'm not shooting at it like they intend, but look, they made that gap so easy to jump across. Like, surely they didn't make a gap that small and expect people weren't gonna jump there, you know? You can talk about what the developer intended or whatnot, but you have to, at some point, say, like, well, maybe you can intend whatever you want, but at some point you gotta just design it better. You can't just make bad design and then say, well, I didn't intend for you to do it that way, so you have to do it the way I intended. Because it's just stupid. But yeah, if I were to have skipped straight into that final room, this game has a really weird checkpoint system. Where if you skip certain checkpoints, the game won't load the rest of the level properly. And so, like, enemies won't move, you won't be able to attack them. Any, like, doors won't open, buttons can't be hit, piglots can't be grabbed. Or at least fake piglots can't be grabbed. It's really weird, and it's very annoying because, again, like, it was so close to being able to skip that whole level. I mean, there was nothing really interesting in that level. Even from a speedrun perspective, like, the beginning of the level's kind of cool, because you can clip out, or you can do a strat to where you can bring the elevator down without getting on it. So the elevator will go down while you stay in that first tunnel, which is important because, again, the checkpoints, if the checkpoints didn't line up, you wouldn't be able to progress through the level. So you have to just make sure that elevator's down. You don't actually have to do the fight or go on the girders. All the game's looking for is if that elevator is down. And then you can go all the way backwards in the tunnel, and then you can clip out of the tunnel so that you don't have to do the slow girder platforms. But other than that, the only strats are, like, the small you can move during cutscenes, and there's a small death warp that saves, like, 2 seconds. But, yeah. So, it would have been really, really cool to just be able to skip the whole level, but unfortunately the game just doesn't work that way. Unless you could find what the checkpoint is the game's looking for, because it's not always just a checkpoint. Sometimes it is things like the elevator being down that the game is looking for. So if you could figure out what the game is looking for and figure out how to do that, that would save so much time in the run. I'm going to grab a few tokens because... oh, geez. I at least really need to be rank 3 by the time I get to level 8. Yeah, because I can't even buy the rocket launcher. And I at least need to be able to buy the rocket launcher to not get soft-locked. I think if I'm just playing the game normally and I'm not anywhere near being able to get the sniper rifle, I don't think this game's going to be viable if I have to do so much extra just to not softlock the game, which, I mean, is really bad design, but I'll at least play around and see what I can do, and see if I can come up with something satisfactory that's not a skip, because the way to not softlock in the speedrun is to clip out of bounds and just skip the part that you're softlocked at. But again, that would be a skip and definitely an unsatisfactory one that I wouldn't count. I guess I could try and go in here and save all these big lots, but I don't know how you get in here. I speedrun this game. I don't play it 100%. Although this actually, and I can show this because I'm not going to do anything with it. It's not like clipping out of bounds is illegal. It's just the skipping. But you can actually just straight up jump. I just jumped over the invisible wall and I'm out of bounds here. And that's one of the big examples of, you know, if you couldn't play as Werewolf and you just tried to do that, there's no way you get over that invisible wall unless you find some, like, height trick. But the thing is you don't need a height trick to do that. You literally just double jump and the game just lets you go out of bounds. This level, though, is one of the most broken in the game. And then also, if it wasn't obvious, I got this game just to speedrun it. Oops, I guess I don't need this guy.
Strike a smash punch and push the big lot toward teleport.
Like, that's a strategy they want you to do? Because this is a smash punch. That's what the game defines as a smash punch. Oh, they want you to do that. Okay. But yeah, I got this game specifically to speedrun it because no one else had. And there were very few skips and tricks people had found. My gosh, if these guys could just get out of here. I mean, can they not follow me out? That would be lame. If the camera could work as well, I don't know why I'm basically first person. But yeah, a lot of times, if there's a game that not many people have glitch hunted or ran, it can be very fun to look for tricks and skips. I've done it with Pac-Man World 3, I did it with this game, I did it with Haven Call of the King. Found some neat tricks in those games. But this was one of the levels that did already have a skip found. There was another guy who had done glitch hunting in this game, and he found a way to skip the first area of this level. So I never really did that first area much. I've maybe done it once ever. And there's a few sections like that where I either... the teleporter's over this way, of course. But to where I either don't really know the intended way, or maybe I've done it a couple times, but I'm not entirely sure. Like that one section at in the middle of level 2 with the Colosseum and the guys breathing fire. I had done that once before, but I didn't remember exactly what it was. I just remember it like really sucked and I hated doing it. It wasn't as bad as I remembered, just tedious. Alright. I'm gonna stop dealing with tokens now, but I guess I probably have to save all the piglots. Or do I? Is there an invisible piglot over here? That seems like it might be the place for it. Guess not. How do you actually disable the laser gate? Normally you would skip this part too. Though I thought I remembered how to do this more. Because this was like the one section in this level that was not skippable for a very long time. Because the guy who had glitch hunted before, I think his username's like Rockmox, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but I'll call him Rockmox because that's the best of my ability on how you would pronounce that. It's Rocmox. And he found how to skip the first area. Oh yeah, now I can buy the Giga Cannon, which I'll actually save on doing that. I need the Smart Piglet, don't I? Yeah, so that first area where we had to smash punch the Piglots, he found how to skip that. And then that second area was unskippable for a very long time. And then I figured out how to skip this area where normally you need to... Is it in here? Yeah, you just put the Smart Piglot in here, he grabs the key. Which is actually not a interactable object. It only disappears as part of this cutscene. But if you actually clip into that room, which you can do, that's how you skip it. You just clip into that room and then just jump out the other side. You can... You can get into that room, and if you get on the key card, it actually will not do anything. It won't disappear, you won't collect it or anything. And then Rockmox found that you could do this, which I'm not going to skip anything by doing this, but you can jump in between here, and then I'm in this room that you don't get to until you've unlocked this door. And then you can unlock it from the back. But that, in and of itself, that doesn't really do anything, because you would have seen that regardless of what side of the door you were on. But I found that you can actually use that. There's actually multiple ways to do it, but you can actually skip this room, that fight, by clipping into that room early. Because if you don't get the key card, you can't fight him. If I didn't use the Smart Piglet earlier, that fight would not have activated. And then, I mean, I can just show off one of the ways you do it. You get up here, and if you transform at the right angle, I don't know if it'll work since the door's open. I guess not, but if you transform at the right angle, you can clip back out of bounds or out of the room, and then you have a small window where you can double jump out of bounds and then get behind this laser gate. And there's actually a couple other methods you can use to do that as well. That's, I think, the fastest way you can do it, though. And in this part, I could, like, do a skip. That wouldn't really be too much of a skip, it's just an out of bounds. And instead of running all the way around here, I would just take a very direct route towards the end of the level. But finding that Armageddon skip was actually what introduced me to the weird world of how checkpoints work in this game, and how sometimes you can't beat the level if you skip checkpoints. Because if you do skip that Armageddon fight, this elevator at the end of the level actually won't activate, and you won't beat the level. But you can bypass that, because all the game's looking for is if you've hit the checkpoint after you beat the boss. So if you walk backwards and touch the laser gate that disappears after you beat him, it'll give you the checkpoint, and then the elevator will work. But yeah, this is the level where I might soft lock, and if I do, I will be sad. Because to the best of my knowledge, you're not intended to be able to beat this section without having the sniper rifle first. And you don't get the sniper rifle unless you're rank 7, I think. I'm ranked 3. Which, if that goes to show just how weird this game is with, like, what it, like, they felt like there was one way people were gonna play the game. Like, they didn't consider every play style. They didn't consider that people were gonna just run through each level, not kill all the enemies, not teleport all the piglots. You know, and then you get to this section. I need that smart piglot to progress, but these enemies are going to keep shooting me. And so those enemies usually keep shooting you, and you can't get past them. Like, you don't have enough time to pick up the piglot, because if they shoot you, you let go. And so that was what I had trouble with a lot when I started running this game, is I would softlock because I couldn't pick up the smart piglot. And there's no way to kill these guys from the front if you don't have the sniper rifle. I mean, you kind of can. If you have the Giga Cannon, you can, like, kind of aim, and if you just hope and pray you get enough ammo, because sometimes it doesn't give you enough ammo, then you can't beat them. The Transfixer doesn't aim far enough to do it. I never tested the genetic powers, though. And maybe they more so expect you to use the genetic powers. I mean, I can at least just test it out. How far does the Storm genetic powers go? Oh, not far at all. Okay, so that would have been worthless. I don't think the Thunder would have gone far enough. I don't think the Moonshot would have. So if you get caught in a loop where you can't pick him up and you don't have the sniper rifle, you do soft lock there. But they just missed me that first shot. So I was just able to bypass it, which is very interesting. I've never been able to do that before. Granted, I didn't try much, because when I first found out that it would soft lock, I knew that if I had tried to... If I had ever tried to do runs of this game, and I couldn't do all the cool skips I'd found in level 7, and the skips that Rockmox found, I couldn't do most of them because I had to make sure I had enough tokens. That would have sucked. And would have made the run just super not fun. So what I did was I just found a way to skip that part. You can clip out of bounds and just bypass that gate, and as long as you hit the checkpoint before, so the next smart piglot works, you're completely fine. So yeah, I thought I was gonna be soft locked or would have to do something weird, but it literally just lined up perfectly. So I'm pretty grateful for that. Also, they give you a bunch of random extra lives here for no reason. I don't know why, but yeah, crazy that lined up, and that I was just able to beat the part I thought I soft locked. Which I guess you could probably do that if I had looked more into that part instead of trying to find an out of bounds clip to skip it. There's probably a lineup you can use where, like, oh, if you come at it from this angle, then you get... Then they'll shoot, you know, too far to the left, so you have enough time to grab the piglot and get out. But, I mean, probably this is best case scenario, that I did just not soft lock there, because if I had remembered that before I started this game, I probably wouldn't have played it. And it's only an hour in, and we are halfway through the game. So maybe 2 hours at most for a run. not a run, but a playthrough. Because I don't need tokens for anything else. I'm fairly confident I can beat the rest of the game without any sort of power-ups or anything, or other weapons. And the levels get fairly short from this point on, except level 11. Oh my gosh, I forgot about level 11. Oh no. Level 11 is horrible. And it's the reason I forget about some of these things is because I do mostly speedrun this game. Level 11's fine if you're running it because you can skip the thing that sucks about the level. I completely forgot I was just gonna have to straight up do it. This level's also not that great, but this one's really short. I just have to remember exactly what you do. This level's just a lot of back and forth. You'll just like come in here, and then I think you hit this button up here, which normally you would skip this part because you can clip out of bounds in just about any water section. So you just clip out of bounds. The end of the level's literally right straight in front, past that door. So you just clip out of bounds and go through the door, go to the end. But instead we have to come up here. Oh, you press circle for this button, okay. The first button in the game that you press circle on to activate it instead of hitting it? That's weird. I didn't realize that. But yeah, there's two different kinds of buttons in this game. Some where you have to press circle to activate it, and then others that you just hit. That's weird. And that's not the only one. There's other buttons you have to activate by pressing circle, but every other button beforehand has been where you have to hit it. And this is why. This is that button right there. That's why some buttons you need to press circle on. Because if you could hit it, I guarantee you could just come over here and you could probably stomp or use some sort of genetic power. You would hit the button, and you would open the door early. That's got to be why. Because I think a lot of things in this game are to avoid situations like that. Where you can either skip or something stupid will happen if you aren't able to. Or if it didn't work that way. And that's why I think the checkpoints work weird. And if you skip certain things, some enemies won't move or attack or anything. I think part of that is because in some levels you can see further in the level than you can go. And they don't want enemies later in the level shooting at you when you can't attack them. That's always part of it. Some of it may have been like trying to prevent skips or glitches or things, but I think that's part of it. And I definitely think that activating the buttons, at least that's part of why they made those buttons. There's another thing later in level 11 that I think also makes sense as to why you would activate it with circle instead of press or hitting it. But yeah, that's basically the level. And so it's kind of just backtracking, a little tedious. That's all it is. It's level 11 that's just really, really gonna suck. There are some levels that kind of offset the length of some of the longer levels. Like you have some really long levels, level 4 is really long, level 11's really long, level 15's the longest level in the game. No matter if you're doing speedrun tricks or not, it's always the longest level. So it was the worst level. Well, actually level 11 might be the worst level. But then you do have some of these short levels where it's like just a small boss fight or just the bike level where it's just get to the end in a certain amount of time. So they can be pretty short. These bike levels, though, they do kind of really suck because the controls aren't that great. And any tiny bump will either, like, spin you around and then you have to, like, try and back up and try and get back going straight, or you'll just die. Which, I mean, wouldn't be that big of a problem, except that you're timed, so if you keep dying, you lose. But this is easily the worst. Oh yeah, and then you get sections like that, like, I mean, geez, I was supposed to come to a complete stop to be able to pass that without dying. But this one's the worst of the bike levels. The first one's not too bad. And then the third one really isn't that bad. But this one does have a lot of left, right, left, avoid these lasers. I mean, none of the bike levels are that bad when you know the layout. Though at that first intersection where I could have gone the three ways, I should have gone in the middle instead of going right. I don't know if the middle's the fastest. I don't know it compared to the left much. But the middle definitely would have been faster than the right. There were too many slow you down textures in that on that path. But yeah, this level really, really sucks. Because it's just so long and tedious and boring. Get ready to see this setup a lot. This, you have 3 rooms, so, or 3 doors, so do something in the middle room, then do something on the left room, then do something on the right room. That's basically this level. Then you also have these music boxes. This is the other button that you need to press circle, because it wouldn't make sense if you had to hit them, because then, you know, what if you hit and you accidentally hit both? And you have to find the right tune. Obviously, with the first one, it's gonna be trial and error. You hit blue and red. If it doesn't work, then hit red and blue. Basically it. But there actually is 2 extensions of that. There's going to be one later that has yellow, green, and white, and then one that has all 5 colors. But you don't have to just randomly guess with the other 5 colors, because there is a hint. They give you a hint in the level before you get to that second group. I think I remember the order, though. I don't really need to memorize it anymore, because I think in a run you would only do the first 2 sections. Maybe you don't even do the second one. No, I think you do. But the order stays the same. So the first 2 will be red and blue. And then the second one will be, I think the order is yellow, green, white. But yeah, these doors give you the hint. So red door, blue door. Oh, is it green then yellow? They're such similar colors that I actually straight up can't tell what the difference was between those 2. Oh, I need air. I completely forgot about that. They don't, because normally you would clip out of bounds. There's not a bounds clip you can do, and then you would go on the top of the water and not have to wait for the doors to open. So you wouldn't have to worry about air in a speed run, and I just completely forgot that you actually do. That was clean, though. But yeah, once we get to the 5 buttons that are all 5 colors, it's gonna be the same pattern, just both patterns put together. So red, blue, yellow, green, white, I still think. Yeah, it's gotta be yellow, green, white. These shield guys are annoying. Because they just, like, it's not like they're damaging you while they use their shield. They just waste your time for them to be invincible. But yeah, yellow, green, white. So that's useless knowledge I'll have ingrained in my brain for the rest of the time. But if I ever, for whatever reason, need to repeat what is the music box pattern in Ruff Trigger, I don't know. But yeah, and then that's another room. Kill that guy. Go into the next room, do the music boxes, teleport the pig lots. Now you can progress. I'm glad though that this is actually really nice though, that the path you're supposed to go has the green lights. So you can always tell which way you're supposed to go, because otherwise it would be too easy to get turned around. That's actually good design. And I mean, okay, this one's actually not that bad. This is just to kill all the enemies section. Kind of the same setup, but you just kill all the enemies. And that's kind of it. Oh, and then this guy spawns and you just kill him and then you can progress. I do think, though, with this game and, like, criticism towards it and stuff, I don't think it's a very good game, really. It's not, like, a horrendous game or anything, but this is actually the part that, like, really sucks.
Try to hit this sheep.
Because, and I don't know this part very well, I've only ever done it once, but yeah, you have to hit these machines, it'll lead the fat pig lot, and then you can progress, and this is basically just a follow section. You have to just lead this guy. Oh shoot, what do I do? Wait, what are you supposed to do? So I can make the fountain spew on. And what do I do with that? I guess I'm not supposed to do anything with the fountain. That's just the tutorial to show what the machine does. I think I'm supposed to lead him over here. But yeah, this is you know, hit the button, wait for him to slowly move over. That's what makes it very, very slow and tedious. And normally you would skip it, but actually you would skip it using this machine. You would use weird collision on this to clip out of bounds, and then you would just walk on the out of bounds here until you get behind that door, because that door is the end of the level. So you just get behind the door and then you would progress all the way through. But yeah, here's the section with all 5. And it's going to be the same pattern. Red, blue. Did they really put it in such a obvious, like they didn't try and like mix it up or anything? It's just red and blue next to each other and then the rest just next to each other? Well, okay then. But again, I've only ever done this section once because after doing this casually for the first time, I was like, there's no way I want to do this every single time I do a run. But yeah, I'm going to try and find a way to skip it. And I did. That was pretty nice. I don't know that I ever had to do this section in an actual run. Maybe my first 1 or 2 runs. But it's been so long since I've done this section that this feels kind of like a liminal space. Like, this doesn't feel real. Like, this isn't a real part of the game. But yeah, this definitely isn't like one of the worst games ever made. Like, it's not buggy much in a casual playthrough, at least. It's not. See, what am I guess I open this door. It's not like frustrating or anything. It's just kind of boring, and the design. Oh, I gotta lead him back. It's just not super well designed in terms of like making the game just really fun. It was made in this awkward time of where 3D platformers had to be beat 'em ups, and you couldn't have a platformer that was kind of just a platformer. All platformers just had to have more beat 'em up aspects to it. And I think the big problem with a lot of the beat 'em up era 3D platformers is that, for one, I think devs kind of tried to make them too much beat 'em ups, because there was a mindset they were getting into that people didn't like platformers, or at least didn't like collectathons, while also ignoring anytime there would be any sort of successful collectathon. Like, companies would say people don't like collectathons, and the Mario Galaxy is like one of the highest rated games of all time. So it's like, I mean, maybe people do like collectathons. Or at least, 3D platformers where you do collect things, like more traditional 3D platformer. Galaxy is more level-based than some of the other games in the series. But still. I think the other problem, though, with the beat-em-up formula of 3D platformers is it was kind of an easy way to pad out gameplay without giving it substance. Because, what should happen next in this level? You fight a bunch of enemies. And we don't have to think about how this is going to be fun in relation to the rest of the game, because we just put enemies here and you just fight them, We don't have, like, if you're in a platforming section, you do have to think of, how is this platforming fun? Is this too tight of platforming? Is this a fun challenge? Is this too easy, But if you have enemies, then you just kind of put enemies in the level. And then you just have the player fight the enemies, and there's not much thought you have to put into it. Especially because a lot of these beat-em-up style platformers, you're not progressing in your abilities to fight. Yeah, you get the genetic powers and different weapons in this game, but this combo right here is the best combo you have in the entire game, and you don't get a better, more powerful move. And so why would you use any other move? It's like you don't progress in your ability to fight. So all the fights end up feeling exactly the same. And so to me, it feels like there's just not much reason why you should have so many fights. Okay, that opened a door. Did that open the end of the level? I don't know, that didn't quite map out right in my mind. For that to be the end of the level. I guess it is, though. Yeah, it is. Weird. I don't know why that didn't look right. But, yeah, so all the fights just kind of feel the same, and then it's like, they all feel the same, so they're all pretty boring. But then the devs think, well, we don't have to make more platforming sections that make the game fun and challenging. We can just pad out the game, make it feel longer, because we just have all these boring fights in a row. And that's a lot what this game feels like. There's not much platforming, and it's just a lot of beat-em-up combat. Or, like, shooting sections. But other than level 16, that was kind of the last, like, really long level. And that wasn't even that bad. This is what, level 12? So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's only 5 levels left. Is that really only 5 levels left? Well, let me count what's past this level. After this level, it's going to be the jungle level, I want to say. So that's 1. Then it's going to be the dark level, then the dark lab level, then the bicycle level. No, there's 6 levels left. Maybe I have it wrong. Maybe there's... maybe I miscounted, or there's like 17 levels. I could have attacked that right there. But, that took a lot of health. I didn't know they did that much damage if they hit you. But yeah, there's one more level than I was thinking there was. But this boss also, like, really isn't that hard. I don't know why they thought, like, the best thing for boss fights was you have to use one of the types of piglots, and it's kind of just a waiting section. Like, you have to time when to use your piglot. And honestly, this one is easier to time than the first boss. In level 6. Because that first boss in level 6... that one is can be kind of tricky with when to time it, because how fast he goes into the cannon is actually depending on what direction he's facing. If he's facing backwards when you grab him, when you set him down, he'll have to turn around, which takes like an extra second to do. Whereas if he's facing forward, he'll just go straight in the cannon. I'm surprised I did level 6 as cleanly as I did, because that can be kind of tricky. But this one, you literally... they'll always do an attack before the color changes, so just wait until it's the color before you need it to be, let them do their attack, and then put the piglot in. As soon as the piglot gets in, the color will stay. So you don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to set it in like halfway after it's red, and by the time he gets there, it'll be green. No, because if there's even 1 second left of it being red and you put him in, it'll stay red until he hits it. But this is, in a casual sense, I think the shortest on-foot level in the game. Because this is the one level where we have absolutely no fighting or puzzles we have to do. Well, there's one fight we have to do. But for the most part, this is just a point A to point B level. These guys that are spawning here, we do not have to fight them. The piglots that are all around here, we do not have to save them. We don't have to do anything except get to the end of the level. That is the only requirement. Other than, we do need to beat Armageddon. And keep in mind, this is like the, 6th Armageddon fight? Same exact fight that we've done every time. I think he does change with, like, his attacks. And, like, what attacks he can do, he probably gets more attacks. But if you beat him that quickly, then it really isn't going to feel any different. But yeah, after doing that fight, we just kind of continue. And this is the end of the level. Level over. Honestly, that might even be shorter than the bike levels. Probably not, though, but it feels shorter, because there's really not much going on. I don't get this loading screen image. That's the end of the level. Why is that the preview image? This level's really dark. I'm buying armor just because I can save. Well, that's a skip, actually. Never mind, I was gonna say I can, abuse damage frames, but that's a skip, so... Actually, I can. You're intended to use the Piglow here, but I don't think you're intended to necessarily use the Piglow in the other section. The next section is kind of a maze that they want you to light the way with.
Wow, the big glow lights up the rocks.
But, you don't have to do it. Or you don't have to light up the way, is the thing.
Oh no, Jock has run out. Try and keep all the rocks lit up at the same time.
So if I know where to go in the dark, then it's not a skip to just charge through, right? Nope, that's backwards. This is the next part of the level. I didn't even know it did this. It like made all these platforms appear. Because you can just damage boost straight through. You don't even need to do the stomp to get more invincibility frames. I guess I'll fight these guys. Because they technically want you to, but you can easily just abuse damage frames. Like, you're supposed to go over here. Like, anyone could see, you can literally just jump over here. You do not need to even be trying to speedrun this game to just think, you can probably just make that. But yeah, I think they want you to use the Piccolo here, but do you really need to? Like, it's just lighting up the way. It's not really doing anything. I mean, I already know where to go. Or at least I think I do. The problem is I didn't come from this at the right angle. So... I may have gotten a little turned around. But yeah, this is where you're supposed to go. Yeah, there's no way that that wouldn't be a legit solution. Because, I mean, that's not hard at all. I didn't have to take any damage to get through there. It's just they want you to light it up so you can find where to go, but if you already know the solution, then... I mean, you can't call it a skip if you know the solution. Right, that's not a skip. You don't have to erase your memory to technically not do a skip, you know? So, not a skip. Completely legit to not use the Piccolo there. Which, even without skips, dude, that's a really short level. This is where we get back to kind of the tedium of it. Even then, though, I don't think this level's that long either. You can tell the early game is the early game. They worked linearly on this. I completely forgot, or didn't realize just how drastically how drastically shorter the game gets at this point. Because, like, you beat the octopus boss, and then it's just short level, short level, short level, bike level, and then the longest level in the game. Which is really weird that it is all these short levels, and then just a super long level. Yeah, this section is actually kind of misleading. You put the Smart Piglot in here, he activates the thingy, and then you see all of these things open, And that's going to lead any player to think I have to do something with these things. Either rescue these piglots, kill all these enemies, but it actually just opens this door over here and you can just progress through here. That tripped me up the first couple times, I'll be real. That's not very obvious that, you know, when the game railroads you into noticing, telling you, hey, take note of this, and then the this doesn't do anything. It's just a little weird. But yeah, honestly, this level's not very long either. This one's just tedious. Because, I mean, first section, just kill all the enemies, then grab the smart pig lot, and then this section, you grab this guy, and you have to explode these two things, and then come grab the smart pig lot. But I think part of the reason the levels get so short at this point is because they stopped making you have to teleport piglots. There were no piglots to teleport in the jungle level. In the dark level, you needed the piglo for one section. But you don't need to... Wait, where am I going? I'm not going down. I was already down the elevator. But, you didn't need to teleport the piglo. You just needed to use him for one section. And then this level, yeah, you need to use the smart piglot and the fake piglot a couple times, but you don't need to teleport any of the piglots. So you're getting a lot less of that tedious back and forth in these last few levels. I also don't know why we hit that button, if that's like a self-destruct button and we need to evacuate. I also don't know if that even comes up in the cutscene after this. But yeah, also on the recording, the game is a lot darker than what I'm seeing. This game is fairly dark, but my TV settings are pretty bright. So I could see a lot of that section a lot better than it's showing up on the recording. And then the final Armageddon fight is no different from the first. The exact same way to beat him, exactly the same difficulty, completely the same. Honestly though, for a glitchless run, this is not bad. Honestly, so far, I'm on pace for this to be better than my first run of the game. But to be fair, part of the reason that this run could be better than my very first speedrun of the game is partially because the first run I ever did of this game, I actually did soft lock and had to restart a level. It wasn't level 8. I'd already figured out how to avoid that soft lock by that point. There's no way I was going to do a run without knowing that. But it's actually the longest level in the game that I soft locked in, and I don't know how the soft lock works. And I've only encountered it a couple of times. So it can happen. It could happen this playthrough. And I may have to restart that level, which again, longest level in the game. But it's probably definitely the worst level to have to restart if you had to restart any of them. So I'm hoping that won't happen, but it could. Because basically, what can happen is some enemies you're supposed to defeat won't spawn, and then you can't defeat them, and since you haven't defeated them, the rest of the level won't load, like the next door won't open, and then you lose, even though like you would have defeated the enemies, they just didn't spawn. Here's the Sonic Drift part of the level. To me, it just reminds me a bit of Sonic Drift because the race is appearing as you go, and the arrows. I guess that's not like exclusively a Sonic Drift-esque concept, That's just a game it reminds me of. Which I will be doing Sonic Drift. I would say a satisfying definition for beating that game is just beat all the Grand Prix. And that game is insanely short, so I will be doing Sonic Drift for sure. Not gonna be that hard at all or long. Because Sonic Drift is very, very short and very fun. I love Sonic Drift. Like, people are typical crybabies about that game. Not hard at all. Not bad at all. It's just a fairly fun racing game just to boot up every now and then. But yeah, this is the first level in a very long time where we actually do need Ruff again. Like, what, level 5 was the last time we really needed him? And, well, we need him again. Because there are going to be a lot of floating enemies in this level. And by a lot, I mean there's going to be a few sections with them. And this is why this level is really long. Yeah, there's no... There's no teleporting piglots in this level. There are no puzzles or anything. But there are a lot of enemies you have to defeat. It is not a straight, just point A to point B type of level. And I'm not going to buy any more weapons. You'll notice I didn't buy the shotgun or the Giga Cannon. I could have at any moment. But the thing is those guns have different types of range. The shotgun has a very, very short range, and the Giga Cannon is like a first-person aim type of thing. And the reason I don't want those weapons is because the ammo boxes around the maps, there's a finite number of each of them. And the ammo they give you is dependent on what weapons you have unlocked. If you only have the Transfixer, you'll only get Transfixer ammo. If you have the shotgun and the Transfixer, then maybe you'll get Transfixer ammo, but you might get shotgun ammo from the same box. You can't buy ammo as far as I'm aware. So if you had another weapon, that would just make it to where you have a lot less ability to get the ammo you need. And with floating enemies, the Transfixer is the only weapon you can really use, at least as far as what weapons we have available. Since we aren't a very high rank. So since, the shotgun wouldn't be very, or Giga Cannon wouldn't be very useful at this point in the game, and it would just make it harder to get the ammo we need if we ever ran out of Transfixer ammo. So I think getting any more weapons at any point in the game really is just a detriment, especially because enemies can be defeated, quick enough with Werewolf that there's really no reason to bother getting weapons for Ruff when I'm only going to use them in these very small circumstances where I need them. I died. That's surprising. I don't know why they were so aggressive. I usually don't die at that section. Oh no. Please don't tell me that's how I soft lock. That for whatever reason, dying here is what causes the enemies to not spawn properly. I mean, in a way, that would be nice to finally have the answer as to why that happens, but on the other hand, not during this challenge. Let me find that when I'm trying to figure that out. It would make sense though why I don't see it often if it requires a death, because obviously the speedrun you want to avoid deaths, so you get better at the game until you don't die anymore. I don't know why they put a full heal next to an extra life that full heals you. That's kind of strange. But yeah, this level is just so boring. It's weird to me though that this game has been less than 2 hours so far, and that I might even be able to beat it in under 2 hours. I mean, this level is like 16 minutes, but we've already been playing some of it, so the final boss is maybe 5 minutes? Because after this is the final boss. This is the second to final level. So I doubt there's 20 minutes left in the game. There could still be 20 minutes left in the game, but it seems kind of unlikely. And if that's the case, then it would be crazy if this actually was an under 2 hour game. Because it feels like 10 hours. It's so tedious and boring, it feels so long. I went backwards. That's not the right part of the level. Very strange. That looked very much like the last part of the level. Or it looked like it was forward. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there are other games that I could play 2 hours and it wouldn't feel like 2 hours. And then some games you play and it feels like 10 hours and then it's only been an hour 40. It's kind of weird. Definitely, though, I'm glad I decided to try this game. I didn't know if this game was going to be viable. Or not. I knew it was going to be viable to beat. Because it's not that long of a game. I just didn't know it was going to be this short. You know? Because again, I'm mostly trying to stick to games kind of under that 2 hour mark right now. I'll mostly be doing games that are like about an hour to start with. Just since I know a lot of like under an hour games, and obviously in a challenge to beat as many games as possible in a limited amount of time. Okay, I got so scared. Those are the enemies that didn't spawn that would have soft locked me if they didn't. So I'm so glad they did. But since I did have today off, I don't have to do anything much today. I thought it'd be nice to go ahead and get a longer game out of the way. And then on days where I don't have as much time, you know, I can do some of those shorter games. But as of right now, I'm trying to avoid anything that would be over 2 hours. Or like significantly over 2 hours, like going into like 3 hours. Or even longer. Eventually I may have to start doing games that long if I just run out of other games to do. But right now, under 2 hours, or around 2 hours, I think is a good sweet spot. Until I need to do longer games. Because I don't want to do anything that's going to be too long, and then it's like, oh, I spent 7 hours doing a 7 hour game, and then I found or remembered 7 more 1 hour games. It's like, well, I spent this whole day doing a 7 hour game when I could have done those 7 1 hour games. Also, notice that machine right there. That's a very interesting machine. You see it's got like the cage with the button on it. And I said there were 2 different kinds of buttons in the game. Well, this is actually a 3rd type of button. Because you notice this machine, and then the doors open. And then we completely ignore the machine, and we don't do anything with the machine, and we go through the door, and here's the end of the level. No idea why that machine's there, no idea why it has a button on it, or at least what looks like a button. No idea why they have 2 separate cutscenes that point you towards the machine, and then it doesn't do anything. Oh yeah, this should definitely be under 2 hours as long as I don't choke the final boss. Because this is the end of the level. This is just defeat all these enemies. And then when you finally defeat all the enemies after 30 minutes, then more enemies spawn. And then you defeat all the more enemies. And then you beat the level. But, yeah, I don't know why that machine is such a big deal. But yeah, and again, if I had done, like, pre-prep and, like, tried to prepare this for a really long time and try and, like, maximize the exact most amount of games I can beat in a year, would have, you know, practiced and done research and found all the shortest games. But I'm not really focused on that for this. This is more so games, just whatever I happen to know, happen to feel like playing, happen to think I could do. It's gonna be good for me. And yeah, final boss time. 1 hour 45 to get to the final boss. The final boss is not that long, and I can even more so help guarantee I can beat it pretty easily because I can buy armor. And the transfixer is not useful for this boss, and I'm not going to buy a weapon because Ruff's weapons do not hurt bosses. Not these main bosses, anyway. All the gimmicks of the main bosses is you have to attack them with the piglots. You can't... you can't attack them directly. And so this boss's gimmick is... he's got little enemies chasing you, he'll throw projectiles. And you just have to grab the charged piglots. And then on either side, you can't switch back and forth between sides. But on either side, you put 3 charges in, and then it'll shoot a laser beam at him. You do that 3 or 4 times. He gets a few different attacks that he'll try and attack you with each time. But really, the main thing of the boss fight is you want to avoid these enemies. You can kill them pretty easily, but it's obviously a lot faster if instead of having to kill all of them, if you can just pick up the piglot right from the get-go. No idea why they give you ammo if you're not supposed to use weapons, unless they expect you to be shooting the enemies while trying to pick up the piglot. I don't know. But yeah, there's 2 charged piglots. So the strategy is to switch back and forth so the little dudes don't have time to actually get to you. So instead of having to kill all the little guys every single time you get to the charged piglot, you can just go back and forth and then hope he doesn't hit you with a shockwave attack. But really, if you're in the middle of the animation and then he does it, you kind of can't do anything about that. That can be annoying, but honestly, this boss fight's not that hard. And there's only 1 hit left. So just 3 more charged piglots and the game will be over. And then I will probably let the ending cutscene play. Because unlike a lot of other games that have credits, this game actually does not have credits. After the, or there's no like special text box that says you beat the game or no new game plus or anything. It just boots you back to the title screen after the final cutscene plays. It's kind of weird, but that's it. 149. That's not exactly the timing it would be in a speedrun. But yeah, less than 2 hours. I actually didn't expect. That's shorter than some other games that I have planned. I didn't think it was going to be that short.
It's perfect. I think we both deserve a well-earned rest. I'm thinking something cozy, like a planet in the Ectos galaxy, maybe.
Why not? I guess I could put up with you for a little longer.
Good job, you guys. But I got a bit of bad news. By all indications, it would seem Viridian is ready to explode. So get out!
There is credits. Interesting. I actually didn't know that. I thought, because every time I always skip the final cutscene every time I beat the game because I do speedruns, so I don't. Why do I need to know the lore of the game? But no, I guess the credits are just the same video file as the ending cutscene. So if you skip the ending cutscene, it automatically skips the credits too. Very short credits though. That was insanely short. But yeah, that's about all the time I have to really do more games today. So that means it is day one of how many games can I beat in a year? And so far the answer is 3. I've beaten 3 games today. That is Kirby's Avalanche, Super Mario World, and Rough Trigger, the Vanocore Conspiracy. And tomorrow I'm not going to have as much time, but then the next day I'll have a lot more time, and then the next day even more time. So again, it's going to depend on the day. I've got other games I plan on doing, other short games I can do, and yeah, so 3 games. Let's see if I can keep that up as an average.